All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's session called 7 Salesforce Data Fields You Need to Build Your Donor Base. I'm Helen Kang from Own Backup, one of today's sponsors. Own Backup is a cloud data protection platform that backs up your SaaS data and metadata and proactively prevents you from losing access to mission-critical SaaS data. I'd like to introduce today's presenters, Anita Henestrosa and Sharon Harvey. Anita is a multilingual international speaker who has spoken in 30 plus countries and specializes in nonprofit and technology. As the founder of Map It 30K, a youth-serving nonprofit, she profoundly understands nonprofit challenges and how technology can drive business success. Sharon Harvey is a Salesforce administrator with a background in information science and over 10 years of experience working with grant writing and fundraising in the nonprofit space. This session will also be moderated by Justin Bars. If you have any questions, please use the chat feature. He'll be monitoring the chat and facilitating the dialogue on screen. Note that the session will be recorded and it will be available afterwards. So feel free to participate and we'd love to hear from you. And that said, for those of you just joining us, welcome again. You are at the 7 Salesforce data fields you need to build your donor base session. Anita, take it away.
Great, Helen, thank you so much. We're so excited to welcome here to our presentation today and share a little bit about how you can increase your donor base with your Salesforce fields. Again, my name is Anita Henestrosa and I'm presenting with Predictive Response today. And I'm also having my own nonprofit called Map It 30K.
And I'm Sharon Harvey. I'm a customer success manager also at Predictive Response Email Marketing. And I'm really looking forward to sharing some ideas with you about how you can improve your fundraising efforts. And we'd also like to thank all of the sponsors.
Yeah, and we'll both guide you through this presentation today. And before we'll dive into the 7 data fields that you need to increase your donor base, we wanted to share just a little bit about us, who we are at Predictive Response, so that you know why we're here today. Predictive really specializes in marketing automation in Salesforce. Actually, 80% of our customers are nonprofits, and they're using Predictive to send out mass emails from Salesforce. And they can really leverage their Salesforce database to automatically pull people into email campaigns and send messages that are really personalized with Predictive. And a lot of our customers really enjoy working with us also because we do provide best-in-class email deliverability, really make sure that your emails land in the inbox. We also provide 2 integrations at Predictive Response. We provide an Eventbrite to Salesforce integration and also a Zoom webinar to Salesforce integration as well. And today we're going to share a little bit of our marketing and Salesforce expertise to help you increase your donor base. Our presentation today will follow the donor journey all the way from awareness to the donor. And we'll run through these 7 data fields fairly quickly. We are going to provide a link to our landing page where you can find information about our presentation. So don't worry too much about taking notes also because there will be a recording as well. So the first field in the awareness stage of a constituent that we're going to talk about is not going to be too much of a surprise. It is the newsletter opt-in field, a custom checkbox field on a contact record. And this is really important because welcome emails have 4 times the higher open rates and higher click-through rates than average emails. And as I just said, we know that, everybody here probably does their newsletters, but what we see with our customers is that our customers are not really taking full advantage of that field. And so we have 2 additional tips for you. The first one is to instantly send a message.
Yeah, and so when you send that initial message, that comes on the same day that they signed up. That lets them know, it reminds them that they actually opted into your messages, so they don't think that it's some list they've been added to without their consent. And then a second step you can take after you set up an automated welcome email is you could have a follow-up drip campaign. So a series of messages, and that gives you a chance to introduce your organization to people over time. And then once you've built out a drip campaign, the third step you could take is to actually dig in and look at what messages in that drip campaign or what links in that campaign people are clicking, so you'll get an idea of what your constituents are actually most interested in and engaged with, so that later on you can segment even further. And I'd like to remind people that you don't have to do this all at once. If you can start with that welcome message and then over time build out the drip campaign content, you'll have sort of a perennial content that you can keep using over time. And most of our customers do take a year or two to get all of these steps done, but none of them regret it once they've done it. So it's worth the effort.
Yeah. Yeah. And so once people are aware about your organization, obviously the next step is they want to do the research. They want to learn a little bit more about you. And you can help them in that stage by really sending meaningful content to them, which brings us to our second data field, which is interests. And that could be set up as a pick list field or a text field in Salesforce. And the interest field is really important because it has to do with personalization of your content. 74% of marketers believe that personalization has a strong impact on advancing customer relationships. That's 74%. That's a huge amount. So it's really important that you do customize your content, and interest is a great way to really send out meaningful information to your audience. And that could be, you could add in that interest field that could reflect like projects that you have, programs that you run, or any areas of interest that your organization covers. And it will lead to, on average, about a 50% higher open rate and 40% higher unique click-through rate as well.
Yeah, and another thing to consider when you are segmenting for interest is that it improves your deliverability. So deliverability meaning that your messages actually land in inboxes instead of a spam box or a promotions box. So if you're sending out messages that aren't getting opened because people aren't interested in the content, over time, email service providers will think you're not sending content that people want. So they'll make your mail land in a promotions folder, for example. And another thing to consider is that people tend to opt out of messages if they're not interested in the content. So to keep people on your list, if you segment them for the parts of your organization that they're interested in, you're less likely to have those opt-outs. So you'll still have a way to reach out to people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and obviously there's so many different ways that you can personalize content. I mean, the interest field is just one way that you can personalize content, but we have on our landing page that we'll share with you, we will review 20 plus different ways that you can do personalization. So if you maybe are not currently collecting the interest field, maybe you'll find something in there that you're currently collecting from your constituents and can personalize your content that way. And if you have a way that you're currently personalizing your content that works really well, post that in the chat. I'm sure everybody would love to hear about what you're currently doing and how that's working for you, since we're all here to help each other. Yeah, and so once a constituent really likes your organization, they will start to consider giving to your organization, or at least getting more involved. And in that consideration stage, the third data field that is really key is contact score. Contact score is a simple number that goes up and down based on how a contact interact with your nonprofit. So did they click an email? Did they click in an email? Did they open, did they visit a web page? Did they attend one of your events? the more involvement they have with your organization, the higher is the contact score, and the more involved you can see that the contact is with your organization. And that field is typically a custom field via a marketing system. But obviously, we know that maybe some of you are not currently using a marketing system, or you don't have that in set up. So Sharon can also share with you a way that you can do this without a marketing system as well.
Yeah, so if you have a marketing system, you will probably find a field like this already working. It might be called lead score field. But if you're not using an automated system, maybe you just send mails to a list outside of your Salesforce, you could still get some engagement level data by, for example, narrowing a list down to just people who opened your most recent email or who have clicked on a message within the last year. And that gives you the same kind of segmentation because, again, you can reach out to people a little more when they're engaged. So it's good to segment down to the really engaged people when you're planning a mailing or a more frequent mailing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is crucial to really send them a call to action when they're really involved and engaged with your organization, so that your chances are going to be higher that they will, take that call to action. Now, awesome. So let's say this person donated and they become a donor. So the fourth data field that you need is distinguishing the donor levels. And that can be a custom pick list or a text field in Salesforce.
Yeah, so this pyramid chart that we're looking at right now is broken down into the 4 most common categories that you'll see for most statistics about nonprofits, because these 4 general groups, from high-value donors down to supporters and volunteers, are groups who behave in different ways and who, over time, really, through your efforts by targeting them in different ways, you can move them up through the pyramid. So, for example, you don't want to send the same message to someone who's just at a volunteer or supporter level that you would send to someone who made a very large donation the previous year. So this kind of segmentation really helps you reach people and gives you an opportunity to thank them for their previous gifts if they've made a previous gift, which always helps people feel appreciated and stay engaged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as Sharon mentioned, adjusting the content based on the donor level. What you can also do, you can not only adjust the content, but you can also adjust the communications type. Maybe your constituents share with you how they would like to be communicated with, if that's via phone, email, or maybe a letter. So it's really important that you communicate them in a way that they prefer. Also, you can adjust your event invitation. So for example, if you do have a VIP event, obviously you want to invite your high value donors and maybe not so much your volunteers or prospects to that event. And with that, so once people have donated, another field that is really important, as we just talked about, attending events for donors. Events attended, that data field in Salesforce is really key. And that can be a campaign member status field in Salesforce. And it's really key because 74% of event attendees are more likely to donate after an event. 74%, that is a big number. And this really shows how important it is to have events and to track your attendees. And I know for some of you, it might not be, you might not have your events data currently in Salesforce. There are several different ways that you can add your events data. One, you can do a manual upload, so you can import and export that data into Salesforce. 2, if you're already using an event management system, the chances that they have an integration with Salesforce is fairly large. And so you can see if you currently have an integration with Salesforce. For example, Eventbrite, we actually provide an Eventbrite to Salesforce integration. So if you are using Eventbrite, feel free to check that out. We have a free trial available. But also Fantiva or Cvent work really great with Salesforce as well. And then you could also use a third-party connector like Zapier or Automate to build those connecting points and sync the data into Salesforce as well.
Yeah, and regardless of how you're getting the data into your Salesforce, you're going to know that people who register and or attend events are your most engaged constituents. And another thing that a lot of our customers do is they have a list of people who registered for an event, and then they have the smaller list of those who actually attended. So you can break down a post-event mailing into people who registered because obviously they're interested, they intended to go, but they didn't show up. So you can send them a message that recaps the event and maybe entices them to come to a similar event in the future. And then with the people who did attend, you can send a message that thanks them for attending, asks them to fill out a follow-up survey to make your next event better, or invites them to a follow-up event that just keeps them interested in your organization and aware of your work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And so now that we've talked about events and how you can engage your donors, and we really want to take a moment to also talk about how you can increase your recurring donors and also decrease your lapsed donors as well, since that is always a really important topic at a nonprofit organization. And the data field that can help you with that is a renewal date field. That can be just a custom date field in Salesforce that you have on a contact record. And this is really important because the average recurring donor will give 42% more in 1 year than those who give one-time gifts. But then listen to this, the average recapture rate of a lapsed donor is 5%. 5% is extremely low. And what a lapsed donor is, for everybody that doesn't know, a lapsed donor is a donor who hasn't donated in the past 12 months. So this means if a donor hasn't donated past 12 months, the chances of you winning that donor back are really low. So it's really important that you make sure that that the donations are recurring. And the way you can do that is by making those renewals really easy and by tracking that renewal date.
Yeah, and so an important thing to remember when you're setting up some kind of a reminder to get people to make an annual gift is when you send out that message, make sure it's a minimum number of clicks for them to get from the email message to completing the renewal or the donation process, because people do get lost along the way if it's a lot of steps. Another thing that should definitely be noted is with our customers who do use this kind of a reminder, most of them report that donors thank them for the reminder because people make a donation and they intend to continue giving on an annual basis, but they just forget if they don't receive a reminder at the right time in the right way. That makes it easy for them to get back into your donor pool. So a lot of time you don't need to feel like people won't welcome these messages, because most of them do, because they do want to support your work. They just maybe don't have the time or forget about it. So it's your job to help them get the reminder in a timely way.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And yeah, and also, like, if you are a membership organization, you can use the same thing to increase memberships as well. So for example, in the image that you see, what we have set up is a automatic membership e-renewal campaign, and you should be able to set that up with any kind of marketing system that you have. But basically it will automatically pull in a person into a campaign when they're 30 or 60 days from their expiration date, or if you do it with a donor campaign, if they're like 30 or 60 days from the last time they've donated and they haven't donated that year yet. So you can automatically pull those people into a campaign, and then because it should be set up as a drip campaign, it will then automatically send out several different emails that remind them that their membership expiration date is coming up, or asking them maybe to donate again if it's a donations campaign. And also with that, you should also be able to automatically complete people out of a campaign. So let's say, Jack is in this membership renewal campaign, and then the second email he receives, he's like, okay, I'm going to donate again. Obviously, you don't want to send the third or fourth email to him anymore. So you want to automatically complete them once they have taken an action. And that is really just an idea for you, but we've seen a lot of success with our customers that are doing those automatic e-renewal campaigns or donations campaigns. It really helps our customers increase not only membership revenue, but then also donations as well. And your constituents will be happy about it, because as Sharon said, a lot of times they don't remember that it's time to donate again or renew their membership. Yeah, and so with that, let's move on to our last data field that we have for today, which is called last donation. And that's a custom date field in Salesforce that you can build. And this is along the same lines as what we just talked about before. It's really hard to, get a donor back once they are a lapsed donor. So it's really important for you to proactively reach out to them around the time that they've donated before.
Yep. And when you are looking, for example, at just nonprofit industry-wide statistics, when they talk about recurring donors, it's almost always talking about people who give once and then give within a year from that. And the reason is this number, this 5%, because if you don't work to keep that donor within the first year, you're very likely to lose them for the long term. So it's so important to thank them, let them know during that first year of what their donation has done or has helped you to do. And so sending messages to make sure that they don't forget about you within that first year is absolutely crucial. And it's definitely the biggest part of your job in retaining those donors. So it's really important that first year to keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so as we talked about throughout the presentation, we have a landing page for you where you can find information about this presentation, but also other information as well. So for example, you'll find more personalization, more ways to personalize your content and your emails. There's more information about why it is really important for you to have your events data in Salesforce. In this presentation, we just briefly touched on that. And then, of course, you never want your emails to go to spam. So you can find an article there about that. And that's just some highlights of what you'll find on the landing page. And if somebody could post that link into the chat, that'd be really appreciated. We'd love to have you visit that page and get more valuable information from us as well. And with that, we wanted to see if you have any questions. So we'd love to answer all of your questions and share a little bit more information for you.
Queuing up our first question, I'm putting it in the chat from Willa Ibach. Do you only send welcome series emails to people who opt in, or all new names that enter your database?
Sharon, do you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah, it's a really great question. We do have a lot of nonprofits we work with who get lists, maybe they'll be just compiling data of old donors who opted in a while ago, but maybe they're only getting them into their database today. I think as a rule of thumb with a welcome message, the best practice is probably if they opted in today or if they signed up today and you're able to send them through your systems some kind of welcome to our list, then it's a good idea to do it. But if you're loading a bunch of people from the past or that have taken many weeks, I wouldn't send them a welcome. You might send them some kind of warm-up content that doesn't specifically say thanks for opting in, because that might actually have the opposite of the effect you want, because they might say, I know I didn't opt into any emails today or this week, so what are they talking about? I'm going to click that unsubscribe button. So yeah, as a general rule, I would wait
Yeah, and
for
also
people. You're welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, and also a lot of our customers just like do some kind of re-engagement campaign where if you haven't talked to them in a while, you can say, hey, we've missed you, we haven't heard from you in a while, and then continue your content from that way. But yeah, definitely agree with Sharon on that one as well.
Great, thank you all so much. Second question's in the chat. It's from Alice Swan. How do you gather information to track interests?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one way to do that is if you're currently using forms, you could add a form to your email and say, hey, we'd love to, learn a little bit more about you, and have them fill out the form. And ideally, the form submissions would automatically update Salesforce. For example, forms that do that, you could do Web to Lead is a way, or Predictive has forms as well that automatically track that submission. Another way that some of our customers do that is when they do the sign up. So, when people sign up to a newsletter, they'll have an additional field where they ask about those interests. So that's a second way that you could do that. A third way, and really great way to do it, is with event registrations. So we see that when people fill out registrations, that they are more likely to fill out more information because they really want to attend that event. So it's always a great way to get a questions like what are you interested in field in on the event registration as well.
Yeah, and a sneakier way is that you could see what links they click in your emails, which takes a little more work sometimes to dig. But if you can see you have a few links in an email that have different topics, and if they're clicking on one topic rather than another, you can kind of surmise that they're more interested in that.
Great point.
So maybe time for one more question. This is the third one listed in the chat, going from first to last. This is from Stephanie Seville. How do you recommend collecting the interest choice from the prospective donor?
My experience with this most recently was with a nonprofit who actually, on their donation form, they had radio buttons that would allow the donor to guide their funds towards different parts of that nonprofit's programming. So that really helped to target who was interested in which parts of their organization. So that's an extreme example because they also had to direct the funds that way. But I think, again, in the thank you message you send them, you could include some links with different interest areas. And if you want to not ask them directly, you could see what they click, or you could just ask them in that donation form. Add the question, what's most important to you? What are you most interested in? What do you think, Anita?
Yeah, same. And then also with those links that they click, if you wanted to, you could automatically send them into a campaign based on the links that they clicked, because it probably does reflect what they're interested in as well. So if you kind of want to wait and see if that's really what they're interested in, you could first pull them into a campaign, see if they really show engagement within that campaign that is specific to that area or interest that they have. So you could also do it that way. And then once you see engagement, you can automatically populate the interest field from there. Yeah. Great. So I know that was our last question. So again, thank you so much for attending. You can always contact us at predictiveresponse.com or get in touch with me personally as well. And yeah, also thanks again for all of our sponsors. And I hope you have a really nice rest of your day and are enjoying our conference. Sharon and I will be online and ready to answer any questions you might have today.
All right. Thank you, Anita and Sharon, and to all who have joined the session. Next up, we invite you to join the demo jam, which has just started. To get there, click on stages on the left-hand side and go to demo jam. See you there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.